Okay, picking up where we left off on page 175, we're still talking about the date and time functions. And there's a couple more on the list which are kind of cool. One of them I talked about before was today. They have another one called now. And you might ask, well, what the heck is the difference between now? Oh, come on. Now is one of those that has the... and then today. Well, you can almost see the difference already. Today is the integer. It's just the date. And now includes the date and the time. So, kind of cool. Alrighty. That's probably enough of that. Let's kind of move on. On page 177, they talk about the text-related things. Things you can do with text. One of them is called concatenate. And this is kind of a strange computer science term. Let's say, for example, I wanted to change this. Let me add a column here. So just go doink. So what I want to do is I want to add the word fruit in front of this term. So I could go in here and say concatenate. Concatenate. I know it's a wrong. It's, in fact, I don't know why they, you know, of all the ones where they should have made it shorter. And then I'm going to use text. I'm going to say like, quote, fruit, colon, something like that, and then comma, and then give me whatever the next one is. So what that's going to do is it's going to prepend, is that a good term? The word fruit onto these guys. So I've concatenated. Woohoo! Which means basically just glue two things together. Now, did I actually have to do that? What happens if I just go in here and say fruit and plus sign? What do you think? Do you think a plus sign would work? Does plus sign always means equal? Yeah. So what's the thing in here to glue text together? Well, it's the ampersand. Okay, that's about shift 7. Okay, so this is essentially the same thing as concatenate. Performs the same function. It's just gluing text together. You use a little ampersand. Otherwise, because plus sign's already been taken and plus sign means math. Okay, that's kind of simple. There's the next one called find. For example, I'm going in here. Again, I tell you what, let's do a different one. Let's keep going. I'm just going to do insert here. And I want to do is I want to find the letter A, okay? This is going to be a little weird. So I'm going to say find. And then what text am I trying to find? Well, I'm trying to find A. And then what text? Well, I want to find it inside here. Okay. Now, this sounds a little weird because it gave me a 6. Well, if you start counting, and if you count it starting at 0, so that'd be K, it would be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you don't count at 0. My apologies. So it's in position 6. So I'm just going to grab this and drag this down. Okay, so position 2 and position 3, and I got no value here for Apple. Well, Apple has an A in it. Well, what happened? Well, I didn't have a capital A. I had a lowercase a. Okay, cool. Let's do search instead. So let's do search. And it starts off with kind of sort of the same thing. I want to drag this down and doink. And now search, because it is not case sensitive, actually found the A in Apple. Kind of cool, huh? All right. So what's the difference between find and search? Well, search has got more to it, more going on. It allows for case sensitivity and wildcards. You know how you have like asterisk. You know how you in the old days, in the DOS days, you do like dir asterisk.txt, and well, you can do the same thing here. You can do wildcards with search, but not with find. So find is kind of the old way. Search is kind of the new way. A couple other weird ones are things like left and right. I can go in here and say, I want like the first letter, okay, the first letter of an item. So how would I do that? Well, it's the leftmost, so I would start off with left. Only if you spell it right. Give it the text, and then tell it how many characters I want. Let's say I want 2 characters, okay? So it's just going to take the first 2 characters of that guy. And I'm going to use the little autofill dude. So now I have ku, ba, op. It looks like elements in the periodic table, doesn't it? Okay. There's things for like trimming spaces and all sorts of other weird stuff. Now I'm going to do a combination of things, okay? I'm going to do something really weird. It's going to take a combination of items to make it. I want to find the first names in this column. So I'm going to insert me a row here that I can play with. So what I want is only the student's first name. Okay. Now that sounds a little weird because what I want to do is like a left, okay, on here, but only like in this case I want only the first 4 characters, okay? Now that's going to work here, and it'll work for Jane, but it's not going to work for the rest of them, right? So instead of having this 4, I need to locate the location. I need to find the location of the space. So inside my formula, I'm going to do another formula. Inside here, I'm going to do find. Now I could use search, but I don't need the power of the search because I'm not using, you know, uppercase and lowercase, and I'm certainly not using wildcard. So I'm going to do find. Now this is a little weird because we're going to reference that very same. So the find is the space. Find me the space, and then that same cell over again. Now you almost have to count the number of parentheses to make sure you got them all. Okay, I'm going to take this and drag this and drop it down. Okay, and there's a couple of them where I messed up. For example, Terry Melcher doesn't have a space. In fact, let's go ahead and fix that. Doink. And since I typed the garbage in there, let's just say this guy's first name is AS. All right, you see how this worked? This is a nested kind of a scenario where I have a find inside a left operation. So it's very common to see these things all thrown together. Let's do, just for the heck of it, let's make it even more complex. I'm going to change it all to uppercase. Okay, so there's one called upper, and then just take all that stuff and put it inside here. Okay, cool. Kind of cool. All right. There's a couple others. I'm gonna keep going. Let's say I want to know how many letters that are in your first name, as an example. There's one called Lynn for length, and I just tell it this, and that should tell me that there's 5. Well, why is there 5? Well, because there's actually a space in here. Remember we told it to go up to this spot, right? So what's actually here is JOHN space. How do you make the spaces go away? Well, there's another one. There's one called trim. I'm going to just go in here and put this guy in. Okay, so now I've trimmed it. You can't see the space here, but it was there. Now, does it matter if I put the trim before the upper or after the upper? Doesn't matter. All right, so now I have a find inside a left, inside a trim, inside an upper. These things can get a little weird, huh? Let me do this. Boink. I want to change this to just a plain old generic. Grab this, drop it on down, and you should be able to count the number of letters in each of these guys' names. Okay, I don't like the way that worked. All right, so that's basically, in a nutshell, how you do text kind of stuff. All right, on page 181, they go through the financial and lookup functions, and they start with lookup. Okay, so this one is a little weird, and it's going to take a couple seconds to actually demonstrate what we're talking about. What I want to do is I want to translate this into letter grades. Okay, that's my goal, is translate into letter grades. So once again, I'm going to give me some spot to play with here. So in order to translate, I have to have a location on my machine that knows how to translate between the two. So I'm going to go over here someplace. How about right here? By the way, if I want to insert two columns at a time, okay, or maybe 3 columns at a time, you can just light up 3 of them and say insert, and it says, oh, that means insert 3 of them. Kind of cool. All right, so now that I've kind of moved this out of the way, I'm going to call this one num grade and letter grade. And I'll explain kind of what I'm doing as I'm going along. Now, I happen to know that you know, if you made a 100, then you deserve an A. Okay, if you had a 90, then you get a B, and then an 80, you get a C. Right? That's how this thing works. Well, actually, no. I got that backwards. C. And if it was a 60, it would be a D. And if you made a 50, it would be an F. And so what I want to do is I want to be able to make this letter grade over here. I want to have that. Go find where it locates in here and substitute a letter grade for it. Now, an oddity of this, which drives me crazy, is this does not work unless it's in ascending order. So I've already typed all this stuff, but it's all wrong. So I'm going to start over, and I'm going to go ahead and just do 10, 20. No. Oh, by the way, now that I've got a couple of them, remember how the autofill guy can infer, if you grab two of them, it can infer that I want to go by 10. Isn't that pretty cool? All right, so now if you got that would be an F, that would be an F, that would be an F, right? Bunch of F's. That would be a D, C, B, A, and A. Now all I've done is just line this thing up so that it makes it come out. All right, now here we go. This is kind of complex, so read in the book before you get to this part. I'm going to type what's called V lookup. V meaning vertical. I'm doing a vertical lookup. There's also one called an H lookup, but just goes horizontal, right? No big deal. So H lookup. Now this is the part that's really strange. I'm going to hit the right. So the lookup value. What I want to look up. I want to look up this. So I'm going to click that, comma. And then it talks to the table array. Now in this case, I need to lasso 2 columns worth of data. Okay, it's almost always going to be 2 columns worth of data. One to look up, and then the other one to infer what the other answer is. So I'm going to just light these 2 rows up. I did not grab the headings across the top. The next one is, after you've performed the lookup, which column has the answer? Do I want it to be the number grade? No, not really. I want it to be the letter grade, which would be the second column over. Okay, now this sounds a little weird, so my column index is going to be a 2. Now that means relative to what I've just selected. Not that the fact that it's, you know, column H. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, does it fit in the first column or second column? So it's just ordinal numbers. So I hit that, and it says an 88.8 is a B. Okay, now you think, okay, I should be able to grab this and go whoop, and have it work, right? No. How come? Well, let's just try it first. It didn't work. How come? Because remember how when we did this pull down here, I do not want this range of values to change. Right now it's G2 to H12, and here it's G3 to H13. That's not what I want. So I want to lock this guy down. Remember that? Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw in some dollar signs. I really want to, I'm going to go ahead and do them all. Okay, that means that table don't move. So when I drag and drop this guy, nothing is going to budge. Okay, cool. So now this stays the same when I do this. Ding, and here's everyone's letter grades. Okay, now admittedly this is a little bit of magic to this, but it works fairly well. I actually use this in real life. In my real spreadsheets, I have this little a thing over here, and I convert your numeric scores into letter scores. So take a minute, look at the book, and kind of master this. This is a good technique that Excel aficionados are known to know how to operate. So you're going to become one, by God. You better learn how to do this. Okay, this is probably a good place to stop for the 15-minute mark. We'll finish this off in just a few.